So Nigel Owens announced his retirement as a test referee. What made him such a good ref, guys? Dylan, I'm sure you've come up against him a few times. What would you make? Why would you say he's such a good ref?
Do you know what? Like Nigel, Sir Ref, he started somewhere. Like I remember back in the early days before he was this all singing, dancing, great ref and personality. Like he was like any other ref. Like he was, he'd come under fire, and we had games where we won or lost, and you kind of have good or bad feelings towards refs. But like anyone, the older he got, the more games he got, the more mature he became. Like he became loved and respected by players, because I said this on telly the other day. I think that the challenge for a ref is to not be noticed, and he seemed to go through games unnoticed in my experience, but equally kind of just sprinkling like his own little personality on the game, like his humor and the way he treated players and whatnot. And do you know what? I always, just call refs ref, sir. And I was listening to Radio 4 one day, and I heard his Desert Island Discs. And I'd never talked to Nigel outside of a professional environment, pre-match, post-match, during a game. And I messaged him on Twitter just saying, "Hi, mate, just listen to your Desert Island Discs, well done, whatever." And we started like a link of communication, and we back and forth. I think the coolest thing about Desert Island Discs is you get a snippet into someone's life and learn so much more about the person. And from that sort of half-hour radio show, I learned so much about Nigel, and it kind of made me reach out to him and say hello personally. And we had a nice little link. And then every time we worked together after that, because captains, we used to go see the referee on a Friday before a game. After captain's run, we'll go to the referee's hotel, sit down, because every international team, for our listeners that don't know this, have an audience. You can have an audience with the referees. You can, the senior coach can go with the captain if you want to talk about anything. You don't have to, but we always did it. So yeah, every time I worked with Nigel after that, it was really nice, because it felt like, we were, I don't want to say we were best friends, but there's a bit more there. It's very nice.
I thought it was only, excuse me, I thought it was only 60-year-old women that listened to Desert Island Discs, but I actually listened to the same thing. And that story about when he first reffed and he got on the bus because he couldn't get there. Did you remember that bit from there?
I can't actually remember.
He's got there's a funny story about when he couldn't afford to get there or something, didn't have a car, so he got on the team's bus with them to the game, ref the game, and it was like a last-minute kick or something, a last-minute decision, and the team that he was on the bus with won. And he ended up getting on that bus after. They never saw him. They had to drop him off before. You should listen to it. It's told better on there. But he basically gets dropped off down the road, turns up to this rugby match, referees the match. The other team lose. He gets back on the bus and he sees the fans see him getting on the bus and are throwing shit and screaming at him. But it's, I listen to that same thing. You know, the best thing about Nigel is he's like personable. You can actually speak to him and engage in a communication, like a conversation, with him. And there are so many refs that take it far too seriously. And I think he gets that balance spot on. He's easy to speak to. He has the crack with it, but he also does his job at the same time. And that's where I reckon you get the best referees. I really like him. I think he's a brilliant ref, and just that side of rugby, we need more of that in the game. And it's a shame to see him retire from international rugby, but I'm sure we'll still see him stick around the club level. Do
you think it's an age thing, like a maturity thing? Like he's obviously a bit older and he's comfortable. You see so many guys that look almost like rabbits in headlights. And I actually got to a point. You'll probably see this now. Referees are younger than you.
Yeah.
Like I never thought I'd see the day, but I remember going to like those Friday meetings, and I'm shaking hands with guys. A couple of the Kiwi and Australian refs are kind of 30, 31. I'm like, I'm older than you. Like how's this going to work on the field? Is this a good chance for me to kind of put the squeeze on you and ask you those kind of questions? But I think that was the best thing about Nigel. He's obviously grown into a place where he's really comfortable. Well respected, never looked flustered. I'd love to see him ref in the early days, actually.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it? It's some of them, the power goes to their head a little bit, I think. And some of those refs where you try and talk to them and they just sort of turn away from you, put their hand down on you, think, oh God, just speak to me. I understand why they don't want to speak to me half the time, but Nigel's always one, like, even if it was like coming up and having a crack with you, you know, seen something the week before and he's like, listen, I don't want to hear that this week. And he'd just have a laugh and a joke about it. But that put it in your mind, right, I better be on my best behaviour with him this week. And yeah, and even after the game, you know, there was games we played at international level and he'd come and sit and have a beer with the boys and have a chat. So, you know, sometimes the referees distance themselves from the players because they get worried, oh, if I get seen talking to the other team, what's the other team going to think of me? But I don't think he had any of that. I think he was in there and realised that what happens on the field stays on the field, and then everything off it is off it. So he had a good balance, did Nige. I like old Nige.
Okay, well, Ryan, what was your best Nigel Owens interaction?
Mine was definitely World Cup 2015 against South Africa. And he will absolutely kill me for saying this, but he did get one over on me at the weekend by hosing us 42-0. But Stuart Hogg, 2015 World Cup, we're playing at St James's Park, home of Newcastle United Football Club. And Hoggy's clearing a kick out of our 22 or something. And I think it was the Beast that came for the charge. And touched Hoggy's shoulder, and Hoggy's taken a dive. He is dropped to the floor like you wouldn't believe. And Nigel spotted it. And this is another thing about him, the one-liners, but he's come over straight to Hoggy. He's like, come here, boy. And like you could tell he's getting a telling off. I think Greg Laidlaw almost thought he was going to get sent off for diving. And what he said something like, he said, dive like that again. And you can come back in 2 weeks because the football match will be on for that. And you hear Greg Laidlaw like crack up, like laughing through the rest mic, but it is hilarious. And then Hoggy, you can tell he's so embarrassed, and we never let him live that one down. And he would have thought that was dead and buried, but I've just brought it back up. So make sure we get that one in there just to annoy him.